I'll use the little step.
Please be seated and mute your cell phones, please, just like the theater. Thank you all. Thank all of you for coming to the 3MT competition today. We have a really full agenda. There will be 2 breaks, really short breaks. We have 22 participants. Before we begin, the land acknowledgement will be given by Dr. Nancy Walton, Associate Dean, Student Affairs of the Yates School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. So let's get started. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Leslie. I'll be using the Yates School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies land acknowledgement. Toronto, meaning where there are trees standing in the water, occupies a place that has been home to Indigenous people for over 15,000 years. The Huron-Wendat, the Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the New Credit River. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Treaty between the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples and settlers from all over the globe have been welcomed into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Toronto is now home for many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Recognizing where we stand is not to historicize experiences of Indigenous peoples or to offer platitudes, but rather it's one of many intentional acts to acknowledge injustice and to commit ourselves individually and collectively as a university community to the path of truth and reconciliation. And it is also an important reminder that we are all accountable for these relationships. Thank you. First, I'd like to direct your attention to a wonderful video sent to us today by our President and Vice Chancellor, Dr. Mohamed Lashbi. He's unable to join us today and was very sad he couldn't be here, but he wanted to make sure to send along his words of welcome and his words of congratulations to all our participants for the work you've already done just to be here today.
Welcome to TMU's 3-minute thesis competition. We look forward to this event every year because today you will do something remarkable. You will take complex, important research and share it with the audience in just under 3 minutes. That's not easy, but it matters. At TMU, we believe research should reach beyond the walls of the university. The range of problems you are tackling across faculties, disciplines, and fields reflects exactly who we are as an institution. The greater the diversity of ideas, the greater our capacity to address the challenges before us. To all our competitors, we are proud of you, not only for today's challenge, but for the curiosity, dedication, and passion you bring to your work every day. The skill you are building today, communicating research clearly and meaningfully in language that everyone can understand, is one you will carry with you throughout your careers. Good luck to all of you.
That was great. That was a great way to start our event. And now to keep the high going, it is my pleasure to introduce Carl Comaridas. Carl is our Vice Provost and Dean at the Yates School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies here at TMU. Many of you may know him, but you're going to get to know him because he's going to be our host for the day. Carl.
No pressure, no pressure. Look at all the empty seats over here. You know, we are live streaming this thing, so I checked out the YouTube feed, and I'm sitting in the wrong spot because all you can see is the back of my head, and it's not the best view for me. So I'm going to move to a new spot, but there's lots of room in the front here if anyone's interested. So good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. Today's about change. We have a new venue. We're trying things different. It means we're all nervous about this, okay? So it's not just you guys being nervous, we're nervous as well. I'm nervous being up here, but it gives me energy. So let's see how it goes. It's going to go well. Okay, so as you all know, 3MT, it's a university-wide competition, the 3-minute thesis competition. Students present their research in 3 minutes in an accessible way and is being judged by a panel of non-specialist judges. I'd like to start by welcoming our panel of judges. Oh, they're sitting in the wrong order. I can handle it. I can handle it. It's good. All right, so our first judge is Dr. Natalie Alvarez. Natalie is the Dean of the Creative School and a leading scholar of performance studies. I changed it. You're not in pharmacy. Performance studies whose work appears widely in international journals and collections. She is the author of the award-winning Immersions in Cultural Difference, Tourism, War, Performance, and co-editor of the award-winning Sustainable Tools for Precarious Times, Performance Actions in the Americas, and most recently authored Theater and War. She's a principal investigator of the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council Partnership Grant, which is a grant titled the Arts Impact Partnership, Understanding the Arts' Civic Impacts in a Data-Driven Economy, and has led a multidisciplinary team in the creation of community co-designed mental health crisis response training program, a scenario-based curriculum and evaluation framework which is now mandatory for all frontline officers in Ontario. As impressive as all of that is, I think Natalie is most known for coining a new term amongst the deans, which is quoted widely, which was, "I should have just listened to Carl." You did coin that term, and people keep repeating it. So welcome and thanks for being here. Our second judge, sitting in the wrong spot right now, is Dr. Corey Searcy. He's the Assistant Vice President International and Professor of Industrial Engineering at TMU. He previously was my boss, serving as the Vice Provost and Dean of YSGPS. He's having a hard time with that transition from not being my boss, and sometimes he struggles with that. I remind him that he's moved into a smaller office, and that settles it. Corey's research focuses on supply chains with an emphasis on sustainability, auditing, and reporting. He was a section editor of the Journal of Business Ethics for more than 10 years, and also served as an associate with the International Institute for Sustainable Development for a decade. Thank you, Corey, for being here. And our third judge is Nicola Luksic. She's a senior producer of Ideas on CBC Radio. I ran into Nicola a year ago almost at the provincial 3-minute competition where she hosted the event. So thank you for being here. Nicola began her CBC career in 2003 at the Fifth Estate and The Current, and created and produced several short-run radio series, including The Bottom Line with David Suzuki and Sometimes Why, a show on language. Her award-winning radio documentary work has taken her to the former Yugoslavia, Chiapas, Mexico, and Zambia, and she has led volunteer communications work with Doctors Without Borders in South Africa, Dignitas International in Malawi, as well as Farm Radio International in Ghana. Nicola has produced a regular series called Ideas from the Trenches, featuring the work of PhD students across Canada. She has served as a 3MT judge at the national and regional levels, and hosted the 3MT competition, provincial competition last year that I mentioned. Thank you for being here. And of course, I want to thank our presenters. You have worked very hard on your presentations. I am so impressed that you are here doing this. It's a huge accomplishment to go through this and have the bravery and the courage to come and present a thesis in 3 minutes. I remember when I was presenting my PhD thesis, and the university said, you only have 20 minutes to present my thesis, and I was like, what? How can I present all my work in 20 minutes? So 3 minutes, it's impressive. You'll all do well, and all the best to all of you. To give the audience an idea of what to expect, the 3MT rules are as follows. Participants can only use one static PowerPoint slide. That means no animation. No other media or props are allowed. As the name implies, presentations are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Participants will be able to see a countdown timer and will be given a 30-second warning. Pay attention to that, please. Competitors exceeding 3 minutes will be automatically disqualified. You'll see me squirming in my seat if you're getting close to 3 minutes as well, so that may be another clue there. And I gotta find a new location though. Lastly, the judges' decisions are final. Presentations will be judged equally on comprehension, engagement, and communication. The first place winner will receive $1,000 and an all expenses paid trip to St. Catharines. Woo! And I'll be there as well, for the Ontario 3MT competition at Brock University on May 6th. The runner-up will receive $500, and a $250 Participant's Choice Award will also be awarded. Without further ado, I'd like to get into our presentations. And so let's hear from our first presenter. Come on up. So Nilufar Amiri is going to present work on her PhD dissertation. She's in the Mechanical and Industrial Engineering graduate program, being supervised by Dr. Farouk Janabi Sharifi. And she's going to present on aerial soft transportation.
Yeah, hello. Drones are everywhere nowadays, but imagine a drone that doesn't just fly, it can reach out, grasp, and carry objects to places that humans cannot safely go. For example, delivering emergency medicine to isolated communities during severe weather condition when roads are blocked and lakes are frozen. For over a decade, researchers have explored this idea using using rigid robotic arms. But these arms are very stiff and limited. They have difficulty in adapting to objects of various sizes and geometries. But my research takes a different approach. I use soft robotic arms that are compliant and flexible, like an elephant trunk. This flexibility makes them safer to interact with different objects and gently grasp a wide variety of objects that, regardless of their geometry, size, or shapes. However, this flexibility comes at a cost. Unlike rigid robots, soft robots are difficult to be predicted and controlled. Their motion is highly complex, and it is really challenging to ensure that during flight they are stable and doing their task with precision. My research actually try to address this challenge in two key ways. First, I develop a predictive model. This model can somehow estimate how the soft arm moves before it actually does. Since the physics of a soft material is highly challenging and complex, I'm using a simplified, approximated model to ensure efficiency in numerical calculation, but yet accurate enough to be implemented in real-world application. Second, I'm integrating visual feedback to have a better understanding of the system by extracting meaningful information from images. Ultimately, my research aimed to bring us closer to a new generation of aerial robots that are not only capable, but also safe, intelligent, and safe and intelligent. Thank you.
Okay. The best part of that presentation was I heard the word physics in it. So I'm a physics professor, and people who work with me know that I'm always looking to give a little physics lecture. So the physics, you want to talk a bit about the physics of robotic arms? No? Nancy's already shaking her head over there. Okay. Moving on to the second presenter. Let me just make sure I have it correct in my list here. Alexandra? No, okay. No, it's okay. Okay. All right. So our next come on up. Our next presenter is Elisa Novichkova. And Elisa is going to, give me a second. Where are you on the list? Okay. Is a PhD student in the graduate program of communication and culture, and she's supervised by Dr. Isabella Pruska-Oldenov. And her title of her talk is The Body as a Battlefield, Dignity and Agency in Sit Like a Girl Movement. Over to you.
Yeah. In the summer of 2022, amidst a brutal full-scale Russian Federation invasion, a photo of Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelenska, taken by Annie Leibovitz, appeared on the cover of Vogue. You can see she's not wearing a gown, tiara. She is sitting on cold stone steps, legs wide apart in unladed style. immediately storm burst online. The rhetorics of critics of traditional values echoed Russian words, and something incredible happened. Many Ukrainian women started to post their photos sitting like Zelenska online. The question is why how you see it is important in the time of war. For many decades, Ukrainian ideal woman was Berehinya, the quiet keeper of the heath. Simultaneously, Russian world ideology and invasion tried to impose patriarchal values and modesty on Ukrainian women as a weapon of cultural oppression. So my study, over 1,000 social media posts, argues that when women post online their photos and sit like a girl is not a trend, is the act of self-dignification. With a semiotics analysis, that's study of signs and symbols, my study argues when a woman in any outfit posts a photo online, that's not just a photo, it's act of self-dignification. And she says, my agency and my dignity, it's not being pretty by any standards. My agency is to fight, to act, to decide. But you can ask, why does it matter to everyone in this room? Because dignity, it's not women's question, it's the pillar of democracy. And actually, when you fight not only with rifles for freedom, you fight with your narratives, your posture, your decisions, because in the face of tyranny, even the way you sit, it's a manifesto.
Thank you. Thank you for that very important message on what fighting means and the battle to be respected. Our next speaker is Sana Subo. Sana is doing her master's thesis in the graduate program of physics, also known as biomedical physics, apparently. I was the director of that program, and anyways, it's an inside joke. Supervised by some professor named Michael Kolios, he's my best friend. And the title is Enhancing Ultrasound Imaging with Nanobubbles. Thank you.
Imagine yourself being told you need MRI scan to diagnose, to know whether you have a cancer, and then being told you need to wait weeks or even months to get that scan. This is the reality for many patients. MRI is one of the most powerful diagnostic imaging tools we have. It provides doctors with detailed images they need to diagnose the disease accurately and plan treatment. That's why doctors rely on it so heavily. But MRI machines are expensive and not accessible to everyone. Long wait times, and for cancer patients, time really matters. So the question is that, do we have to rely on MRI to get high-quality diagnostic images? This is where my research comes in. I work with ultrasound, a diagnostic imaging modality that is widely available and affordable. Ultrasound can be at bedside, in clinic, and in remote areas. However, ultrasound has limitations. It doesn't provide doctors with detailed images they need to make them able to reach a confident decision. Our goal is to resolve that. We use tiny bubbles, we call them nanobubbles. They are 1,000 times smaller than a grain of sand. They are made of fat shell similar to the fat found in our body, and they are filled with safe and compatible gas. When injected in the body and we direct ultrasound toward them, they start bouncing. Those bouncy movements enhance the ultrasound images dramatically. We use those tiny bubbles in prostate cancer as the ultrasound is the main imaging modality for treatment and diagnosis. And when we direct those tiny bubbles toward prostate cancer cells, they enhance the ultrasound images significantly. By combining ultrasound with nanobubbles, we're moving toward a future where medical images can be sharper, obtained faster, and affordable, because obtaining medical images does not mean patients should wait longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sana, for that presentation on nanobubbles. Whenever Michael Kolios, my friend, talks about nanobubbles, I think of a bubble bath. Similar thing, just bigger bubbles. Next we have Susanna Neves. Susanna is a master's thesis student in the graduate program in computer science, supervised by Dr. Preeti Raman and Dr. David Mason. And the title of her presentation is Do No Harm, Rehearsing Ethics in Computing.
Imagine walking into a casino and seeing people of all ages, including children, glued to slot machines. Would this alarm you? What if I told you that on platforms many of us use daily, like YouTube and Instagram, their never-ending feeds of new information are the neurological equivalent to pulling the lever repeatedly on a slot machine? Keeping us hooked is an intentional and manipulative design strategy. But does it have to be this way? What if the people creating these technologies thought of long-term societal implications and made different design choices? My research created Rehearsals, a digital simulation tool for practicing ethics in computing. Our first simulation is based on the concept of confidentiality. We use first-person, point-of-view videos to immerse the user in 5 scenes as a new software developer, where they're tasked with making multiple-choice-based ethical decisions. They have the opportunity to reflect, make mistakes, receive feedback, and revise their responses. In our most recent study with a group of 135 computer science students, nearly 2/3 of them showed a significantly strengthened attitudes towards ethical development. Giving them the embodied practice, taking it out of the cognitive and giving them the embodied practice of ethical behavior. Our vision is to have Rehearsals at the center of a free and open community of practice where educators can share and collaborate on a large library of digital simulations for ethics learning. These simulations could be used in different courses and settings, providing students with the embodied practice to speak out and make informed decisions, creating a future where we can more easily manage our slot machine lever pulling responsibly. Rehearsals can support the development of behaviors that can, in many different ways, contribute to the creation of technologies that are not taking advantage of us and our planet, but are instead supporting us to live well and flourish together. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. We can always, not just the kids, we can always get more help with being less immersed in our electronics. Next we have Naveed Zarabi. You ready to go? Okay, good. PhD, doing the PhD, come on up. Doing the PhD in the graduate program of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, supervised by Dr. Sajad Saidi and Dr. Nariman Yousefi. And the title of his presentation is Listening to the Invisible.
Humans are incredibly good at inventing new things, medicines, materials, advanced chemicals. But we do not understand where these inventions, where these substances end up once we are done with them. We have several examples throughout history. One of them goes back to 1970s, when we used CFCs in our refrigerators and spray cans. And at the time, we considered them pretty safe and stable, until we realized we are making a hole in the ozone layer as a result of using CFCs. Does that mean that innovation is dangerous? I believe it means that we did not understand the consequences of what we had made early enough. Today, we are facing similar challenges. Microplastics, for example. These tiny particles are also invisible. They are widespread, and we do not yet fully understand them, like CFCs back then. If we want to protect our planet from microplastics, we need informed strategies, we need informed policies, and for that, we need smarter ways to monitor our environment. Oceans are specifically important here because they cover most of our planet, and at the same time, they're accumulating large amounts of microplastics every year. Right now, if we want to see how much microplastics is in the ocean, we have to take a sample from the ocean, bring it back to the lab, and then analyze it. And this could take days to even weeks. By the time we get the results back, everything has changed. Oceans never wait for the lab results. So, if we want to, what if we didn't have to take the samples back to the lab? What if we could come up with monitoring strategies where they could directly identify microplastics in water? That's the main idea behind my research. We have developed a new sensing mechanism based on high-frequency ultrasound. Instead of looking at the particles directly, we send high-frequency ultrasound waves into the water, and then listen how these particles scatter those waves. Once we have the waves back, we interpret them using artificial intelligence, allowing us to quickly identify microplastics against other types of particles. The goal here is to make monitoring strategies smarter, faster, and continuous. Even though some threats are invisible, we can still listen and be ready to protect our planet.
Thank you. Navid, important work on protecting our planet and finding microplastics in the ocean. Good, okay. Next is Wen Chen. Wen Chen is doing a master's MRP project in the graduate program of fashion, supervised by Rachel McHenry, and the title of her presentation is The Lost Potential of Ontario Wool.
Second chance. Are you wearing a sweater? Is it made of wool? And do you know that we even produce wool here in Ontario? Many people don't. And the number tells a surprising story. Every year, more than 14 billion kilograms of wool have been discarded. Meanwhile, in 2024, Canada spent over 1.54 million importing wool from other countries. So at the same time that we are importing wool, huge amounts of fleece that's produced by our local farms are being discarded or even burned. Canada has a long history of sheep farming, yet most of the wool that's in our sweater does not come from here. Why? One of the major reasons is infrastructure. Over the past centuries, huge amounts of wool mills have been closed, Without facilities to process fleece into yarn, farmers have few options. Processing wool can become very expensive, hard to access, or simply just unavailable. As a result, wool, such an incredible material that is renewable, biodegradable, warm, water, odor resistant, fire retardant, just becomes something that's treated as waste. My research asks a question: what can wool become if we process it locally instead of discarding it? My major research project explores the hidden value of Ontario wool through hands-on textile making. I collect raw fleece of different sheep breeds that's raised by local farmers, and I process them myself, from washing, carding, spinning, to knitting and weaving, to understand how they behave and what they can become. Through this process, I study how each breeds produce fibers with different strength, textures, and possibilities. But my research is not only about making yarn. It's about revealing the value of a material that many people don't even realize exists locally in Ontario and Canada. By transforming discarded fleece into something like textile artwork and swatches, I made it visible so people can see, feel, and understand the material. Because sometimes the best way to understand a material is not just to listen or look about it. It's about experience it. And at a time that many more people are thinking about local production and the resilient communities, reconnecting with the material that's from our own region matters more than ever. And for this to happen, it's not just about awareness. It also requires support, infrastructure, and advocacy to rebuild the local processing system. And because the next time you wear a wool sweater, the question might not just be what it's made of, but why the wool from Ontario sheep never made it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's support the Ontario sheep. They're so cute. All right. Next we have Louis Maroney. Louis is doing their master's thesis in the graduate program of Communication and Culture, supervised by Dr. Louise Etienne Dubois. The title of their talk is Unmasking the Tragedy of Creative Industries Work.
Did you know that 79% of Ontario arts organizations say that their staff experience high or very high levels of stress and anxiety? Or that as much as 64% of film and TV workers are considering leaving the industry due to mental health concerns? When we think about the creative industries, we might imagine happy employees who are grateful to be paid to do creative work, but these jobs often entail long hours for project teams who must meet unmovable deadlines, even in the face of change, because no matter what, the show must go on. Much like the smiling and frowning masks that represent the two pillars of comedy and tragedy, work in the creative industries represents a duality of the happiness that their products give us and the stress and serious life consequences of the culture that surrounds their production. But what if that culture could change? What if, at the post-secondary level, students who have dreams of working in the creative industries can be equipped with the tools to create a safer, less stressful environment? I believe that project management theory can help make that happen. A project is a group of time-bound activities organized to create a unique product. Project management theory is a well-defined body of knowledge that outlines how to manage projects. Interestingly, the creative industries, even though they are concerned with creating unique products, has never traditionally embraced project management theory. So, I collected course outlines from project-based curriculum in post-secondary creative industries programs across Ontario. I then analyzed them through the lens of current project management theory. I created a comprehensive list of 45 key phrases that captures all of its areas of focus, and I noted how many times those phrases appeared in the course outlines I collected. The phrases that appeared the most were related to planning the work and working the plan. In other words, the show must go on. Phrases that appeared the least were related to conflict management, risk responses, change management, activities that are focused on anticipating and responding to unexpected events and avoiding long days and stress. Based on these findings, I can recommend enhancing creative industries' post-secondary curriculum and help to improve work in creative industries culture. Imagine a new generation of creative industries professionals benefiting from an education that provides them with a common language across sectors rooted in project management theory, showing them not just how to work the plan, but equipping them with the skills to make that work sustainable, thus leaving those masks for the stage.
Okay. I have to say, I was associating programs before, and Lois, you had me at curriculum. And I think I know who the next associate dean will be. Good job. All right, our we're doing one more talk, and then we're taking a break. So the last talk before the break is Messiah Esfahani. Messiah is a PhD student in the graduate program of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, supervised by Dr. Sajad Saidi and Dr. Aisha Benner. And the title of their talk is Robots Saving Lives.
I personally believe numbers have a story behind them. For example, if I ask you what is 127,537, you will probably say it's a 6-digit number. But it has a much more important meaning behind it. It shows the number of fire station phone calls that happened in Toronto during last year. And just by simple calculation, you will understand that some of them have happened concurrently. It shows how important it is to optimally allocate tasks among firefighters. Nowadays, multi-robot systems have been utilized to solve various problems. For example, they can do package pickup and delivery and be utilized during search and rescue scenarios. In my project, I'm going to provide a multi-robot distributed task allocation framework that can be utilized to solve various problems. And as an example, we will utilize them during fire incidents to help firefighters. It consists of 3 main steps. First, robots need to estimate positions of tasks. Secondly, they need to communicate with each other in a distributed manner to share their gained knowledge. And finally, they need to plan their trajectory toward their assigned goal in a way that they do not have any physical collision with each other or obstacles in the scene. We also introduced another type of collision avoidance that is responsible for making sure that each task is only assigned to one robot. Currently, most of existing methods consider that we have a central point or a server. And when robots want to communicate with each other, they send a message to the server, and then they wait, and wait until they receive an update from the server, and then they start to operate. But as our approach is a distributed version, we will get rid of this server. And instead of that, each robot will be capable of having a tiny memory and processing unit. This will help us in decreasing time consumption, decreasing memory consumption, and decreasing cost of solution. And we gain an important feature that is called scalability, and is useful when we are dealing with real-world problems and we have large number of robots. During last year, more than 200,000 people died during fire incidents all around the world. If you ask me what is the most important goal of your research, I will answer it with one simple question. What is more important than saving lives?
Thank you. I don't know why I have this unhealthy fear of being killed by a robot, so it's good to hear robots saving lives. That's a good thing. So if I am right, yes, is that right? Is it break time? Yes, it is. So I have this run sheet that has specific times every 4 minutes. So right now it says 12:58 is the time on my sheet, and it's 12:58 on the thing. So we're like, bang on time, right? Yeah, there we go. So we got some extra time. I think it's 12:58 was the start, so we have a few more time. So we'll take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue with the talks. Refreshments at the back, and washrooms are by the elevators at the back there. A second set of speakers, and let me just get myself oriented here. There we go. I got everyone to sit down and just stare at me now. I don't know where I am. Okay, I'll make it up. Okay, so just want to have the right name. Yeah, okay. So our next speaker is Tanvi Singhal, doing their master's MRP in the graduate program of digital media. Their supervisors are Dr. Lorena Eskandon and Namir Ahmed, and their talk is titled Spotlighting on Archives.
Think about how you look into another time or another place. Chances are that you watch videos before you travel, or that movies have shaped the way you perceive history, or that when you watch sci-fi, you think about the future, or that you learn about your own evolution when you look at your own old photos and videos. The French filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard said, "Photography is truth, and cinema is truth 24 times a second." There are elements of truth about ourselves and about our society in all audiovisual material. And this here is a safe for these truths. This is the TIFF Film Reference Library, a film archive that houses decades of Canadian and world cinema heritage. They protect, collect, and preserve invaluable film material and make them available for researchers, students, filmmakers, and future generations. According to the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, for every dollar invested in the art and culture sector, it yields $29 in economic activity. And yet, these institutions are chronically underfunded, and archives are particularly disadvantaged because what they have to offer is behind these shelves, out of sight. And when you don't know about the archives, you cannot care about them, and you cannot advocate for greater funding for them. And this is where my major research project comes in, where I partnered with the TIFF Film Reference Library to develop a strategic roadmap for visibility, engagement, and resource optimization. I spoke to experts and conducted industry benchmarking to create research-backed recommendations, but perhaps the most important thing that I brought to this project was something that all organizations need but struggle to find: an outside perspective. While working on this project, I realized that these very doors that protect these archives also make people feel like they need permission to enter. Which is why a key part of my roadmap is to lower these invisible barriers through community partnerships and welcoming entry points. Every now and then, we will have to look back into our past to make sense of our present. And my research project ensures that we continue to protect, preserve, and make our audiovisual heritage seen so that it can keep shaping the way we see the world. Thank you.
Thank you. That picture reminded me of my grad school days at U of T, I think in the Gerstein Library, where they had those rollable things. And what was not inviting was I always thought I would get squished in between one of those, so I never went between them. Our next speaker is Parisa Haji Ali Razae, doing their PhD in the graduate program of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, supervised by Dr. Saman Hazandeh and Amin and Dr. Hossein Zulfikar Rania. The title is The Hidden Relationships in Your Grocery Basket.
Thank you. We have all been there. You open the fridge, you stare inside for a moment, and then the familiar question appears. What should I cook tonight? Meet Sarah. She opens her fridge, nothing interesting. So she stops by the grocery store to see what she can find. Then she sees it, a steak on promotion. She picks up the steak, then she thinks she may cook it in the oven, wrapped in aluminum foil to keep it juicy. But imagine she walks to the foil aisle, but there is no foil left. Not by chance, but because the store didn't expect that discounted steak would increase the demand for foil too, to be ready with inventory. So Sarah might go to another store to find the foil, or she may simply give up the steak and cook something else. Either way, Sarah leaves frustrated, and the store loses a customer. Now, you might think, how on earth was the store supposed to know she needs foil with her steak too? You're right, it wasn't something obvious. If she picked wine with her steak, fine, that's a common pairing, but aluminum foil? That's exactly where my research comes in. I analyzed over 2 million retail transactions to understand how discounts on one product can affect the demand of others. Some relationships are obvious, such as steak and wine, but others, like steak and foil, only appears when we analyze large amounts of data. Using data mining and machine learning, I uncovered these hidden relationships and predict demand under different discount levels. But understanding demand is only part of the solution. I then used these insights into a mathematical optimization model to design the store's whole promotion plan, deciding which product to discount and by how much to maximize the whole profit. Sometimes it's better to discount related products together, but sometimes not. It all depends on demand response, and the model ensures the optimal decision. But in future, promotions can become even smarter. Different stores serve different communities. For example, suburban customers often buy in bulk, while urban customers shop smaller but more often. My future research aims to design location-aware promotions where discounts are tailored to each specific store's community. Because the best promotion strategy isn't just about discounting products, it's about understanding people, baskets, and behavior. So the next time Sarah walks to a store wondering what to cook for tonight, the store is ready with the right discount and the right inventory to support them. Because now there are no more hidden relationships in Sarah's basket that the store doesn't know. Thank you.
Thank you. When I'm thinking of pairings with steak or anything, it's ice cream. So it's an easy one with me, just get more ice cream. Our next speaker is Catherine Haynes. Catherine is doing a master's thesis in the graduate program of biomedical engineering, supervised by Dr. April Kademi, and the title of her talk is Quicker Stroke Detection with AI.
Picture this. You're trying to catch a train, but there's a train broken down at the station ahead of yours. No trains are able to leave your station. More and more people are filling up the platform, and they're getting frustrated as they're unable to make it to work, so their businesses are unable to open for the day. This is similar to what happens when a patient has a stroke. The broken down train is the blockage, represented in this slide, and the people are the blood trying to get through to bring oxygen and nutrients to other parts of the brain. The longer the blockage occurs, the more tissue will die. Each year, 12.2 million people experience a stroke. Of those, 3.3 million will be fatal. Blockages are the most common cause of stroke, but they're the most difficult to visualize and diagnose based off current medical imaging protocols. Time is key in stroke diagnosis to optimize patient outcomes. The main drug used to treat a stroke must be administered within 3 hours of symptom onset. There are many obstacles that could lead to a patient having a delay in treatment. The first would be unknown time of onset, as this is defined by when a patient was last seen well. In cases where the patient was alone or asleep when symptoms started, this may be unknown. The second is bleeding within the brain. The drug used to treat a stroke will make any bleeding worse. A computed tomography, or CT scan, is taken to determine whether or not there's bleeding within the brain. This, however, does not confirm that there is a blockage or the regions impacted by the blockage. If this information is needed, such as in cases where the drug does not clear the blockage and surgery is required, an MRI scan must be taken. MRIs are better at imaging the actual brain tissue themselves. However, they're much more expensive, rarely available, and time-consuming. What if there was a way that we could get more information from these CT scans with just seconds of computation time? That is where my work comes in. I'm working on a data set composed of CT scans taken at time of admission to hospital, alongside follow-up MRI scans, to be able to train an AI algorithm to pull out features from these CT scans, such as small changes in brightness. These small changes in brightness are virtually impossible for the human eye to consistently detect, but they could confirm for us that there is a blockage and the regions impacted by that blockage. Through the use of AI, we would be able to localize the blockage, quantify the damage, and restart the clock for stroke patients.
Thank you, Catherine. Very important work on stroke detection early, given its risk of fatalities. Next, we have Namira Sheikh. Namira is doing their master's thesis in the Occupation and Public Health graduate program, supervised by Dr. Tracy Kirkham and Dr. Chanyip Hon. And I'm really nervous because I'm struggling with that first word, but I'll give it a try. Acrylonitrile. Is that right? Okay. Invisible but not harmless.
Hello? Is it audible? Yeah. All right. Imagine going to work every day, a place where we spend 1/3 of our lives, and breathing something you cannot see, feel, and might not even smell, and being told it's safe. Now imagine learning years later that this chemical is officially a cause of cancer. Acrylonitrile is that chemical. It's used to make everyday products such as synthetic rubber, plastic, and even car parts. For decades, workers have been exposed to it, often at levels unknown. But science has moved forward. And in 2024, acrylonitrile was officially classified as a known cause of cancer in humans by the World Health Organization's Cancer Research Agency. So in light of this reclassification, we asked a very simple question. Who, that is in which occupations, where, that is in which industries, are workers still at getting risk of exposed to it? To answer this, we looked at thousands of air samples collected during inspections conducted across facilities, factories, warehouses in Ontario, Canada, and the United States. But here's the thing. In Ontario, the available inspection data only extends to the early 1990s, which means we have very limited visibility into what the exposures might look like today. On average, the exposures are low, which sounds like good news, right? But here's the catch. Averages hide risk. By Canada's current limit, the exposures often look safe. But when we compare them to the newer and protective limits that will be used in places like the European Union, many industries suddenly fail to meet them. We found that the risk was not evenly distributed. In industries that make up the building blocks of car parts and accessories, more than 50% of the measured sample would exceed these safety limits. And the workers most affected were not the executives or the office staff. They were, in fact, the operators, the machine workers who directly handle and process acrylonitrile. So what does this mean? This means that a worker can appear safe under the current Canadian standards while still being at risk at the modern ones. As countries update their safety limits, we need to know exactly which job, which industries need protection first and foremost, because policy alone doesn't prevent exposure. Action does. In medicine, we are often taught to look for horses, not zebras, which means to look for the most common causes of the diseases. Occupational health, it's that horse. It's common. It's right in front of us, yet often too ignored. My research helps bring those invisible risks into a focus so that when someone goes to work every day, safe truly means safe.
Thank you. One of my early work when I started at School of Grad Studies was helping get the program of Occupational Public Health off the ground. So it's really nice to see the excellent research coming out of that program. Next up is Laura Teran Simankas. Laura is a PhD student in the graduate program of Chemical Engineering, supervised by Dr. Merab Merba. Title is Using Sunlight to Make Reliable, Safe Drinking Water.
Water, something that we take for granted every time we open the tap. But in Colombia, my home country, 40% of the rural population lacks access to it, especially in scattered communities where homes are far apart, electricity is limited, and large water treatment plants are difficult to sustain. So, my PhD research asks, how do you make safe water in places where conventional systems do not fit? My answer is not bigger infrastructure. It is smarter infrastructure at the household level. I am designing a household water treatment system that combines simple filtration with solar disinfection. First, filtration removes what you can see, dirt and larger parasites. The water looks clearer, but it's not safe yet. Then comes the solar step. Sunlight helps inactivate the microorganisms you cannot see, the ones that still make people sick. But this is not just leaving a bottle in the sun and hoping for the best. Sunlight is free, but reliability is not. You cannot build an engineering system based on guesswork. Hope by itself is not a strategy in engineering. And that is where my research matters most. I am using engineering models and designing a real-scale setup to answer 3 key questions. How the water moves through the system, how quickly germs are inactivated, and how much sunlight is needed to make the process reliable. In other words, I am turning sunlight into a treatment process that can be designed, trusted, and used at home. Why does that matter? Because safe water means fewer illnesses, less time boiling or collecting water, and more time for school, work, and everyday life. 3 words to remember: safe, simple, sustainable. Because safe water should never depend on where you live. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Growing up in Sri Lanka, I completely appreciate the importance of safe drinking water. Up next is Alex Sain. Alex is doing their master's MRP project in the graduate program of digital media, supervised by Anke Fuller-Carroll. The title of their presentation is Emotional Infrastructure, Belonging in Plain Sight.
I was born in a country that doesn't exist. I was stamped with the nationality of a country that I've never been to, and when I became a Canadian citizen, my motherland refused me as her son. All my life, I've been asking a question: if the place where you're born doesn't exist anymore, or if you have no emotional connection to it, where does that feeling of belonging really come from? Over the years of participating in this underground urban layer of Toronto, I realized that I'm not just a researcher, I'm also the subject too. As an immigrant looking for home, I also noticed that we disappear into a different space. It's the digital bubble. We put our headphones in, we look at our tiny screens before we even leave the house, and we never emerge out of that bubble until we get to where we're going to, missing out everything that's happening around us. That transitional space completely goes unnoticed. But that space is important. That space in between is what shapes your experience. We spend about a third of our life living on intersections, sidewalks, and transit stops, but we rarely remember what we actually see. My research truly began as when I stopped and started paying attention. You see, we're taught that cities are built on physical infrastructure, buildings and roads, glass and steel, signage and postage. But I talk about a different layer. It's a layer that the architect called the afterlife. I call it emotional infrastructure. It is a layer that's built by small little things, the pieces of themselves that people leave behind. And sometimes it's a mural or a graffiti tag. Sometimes it's a sticker on a pole or behind that road sign. It's left there for somebody else to find, for a stranger or a friend, but it's meant to elicit an emotional reaction, often a smile. Those are beacons of memory. They're beacons of memory that are left for you and for me and for everybody else, for somebody to notice in this public transitional space. Now, this is a redefinition of what urban belonging really truly means. When I started slapping my own beacons all over Toronto, I didn't realize that I was becoming a sticker myself. I'm that little hanging dude that's pointing at everybody else, connecting in this way of communication that doesn't stop, that just keeps going and feeding this urban environment. Now, what I want you to do today is burst your digital bubble. Get out of that zone. Pay attention to where you're walking around, because that attention, presence, and persistence is very important. Maybe you'll get inspired to leave a piece of yourself, or maybe just a sticker of me. But make sure that you do pay attention, that you stay in the present, and you be persistent. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'll be on the lookout for the sticker and the bearded prof for 1-6. Our next speaker is Tala Inns. Tala is doing their PhD in the graduate program of chemical engineering, supervised by Dr. Hardis Zarin and Dr. Ramdane Dib. And the title of their presentation is Sweat, the New Blood Test.
Every day, people rely on blood tests to understand what is going on inside their bodies. But blood tests are invasive. They take too long to get the results, and they require specialized personnel, needles, and specialized equipment. What if I told you we could get the same health information without drawing blood at all? This is where my research begins. Sweat contains a wealth of information, including molecules linked to hydration, metabolism, and stress. This is why researchers believe that sweat could one day replace blood tests. But there are problems with testing sweat. To test sweat, first, we must induce sweat. And the current methods are very invasive. They rely on microneedles and electrical current. My research solves that problem. I developed a gel, a simple gel patch, that induces sweat without electricity and without needles. Now, the invasive methods deliver a sweat-inducing agent called pilocarpine. And this causes pain, discomfort, irritation, infection, burning, blistering, and just all-around discomfort. My research solved that problem by making this patch, and by utilizing this patch, we're able to get the same amount of sweat that was generated with the invasive methods. But then, we discovered something else. We discovered that the skin kept producing more sweat. And what that means is that we could channel this extra sweat into separate tiny test areas. And this way, we can solve another problem, which is detecting several health signals at once with only one device. So this work is not just about making sweat induction more comfortable. It is about moving towards a future where a simple wearable patch could replace painful testing by a gentle, comfortable, and a truly non-invasive method. One day, instead of giving blood, we may simply wear a patch and let sweat tell the story of our health. We need not travel far, for the answers we seek lie on the surface of our skin. Thank you.
Thank you, Talha. Any work to reduce injections or needles in us is great stuff. So, 2 minutes ahead of schedule. 1:35 is the next break. So, what should we do? Just kidding. We'll take the break now. So we're going to take a 5-minute break again. Stretch your legs, have another drink or bite to eat, and we'll start again. 25 seconds. This time the associate deans are in place in time. I was going on for like a minute. Okay. All right. That was a quick quietening. Okay, I'm going to introduce our 16th competitor today. Are we ready? Oh, not yet. I'm ahead of the schedule. Am I ahead? No. Are you good? Okay, all right. Our next speaker is Nezma Ahmed, doing their master's thesis in the graduate program of civil engineering, supervised by Dr. El Sayed El Bishi. The title of the presentation is Turning Waste into Power, Fighting Global Warming with Machine Learning.
Imagine a future where extreme heat waves, wildfires, and floods are a part of our daily lives. This is not just imagination. This is the reality of global warming. At the center of this crisis are greenhouse gases. Among them, methane is especially dangerous because it traps much more heat than carbon dioxide. Every day, large amount of methane is produced from organic wastes in landfills, agriculture, and wastewater treatment systems. But what if, instead of letting these gases harm our planet, we can use them as a solution? One powerful solution is anaerobic digestion. In this process, microorganisms break down organic wastes in the absence of oxygen, producing biogas, which is mainly a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. Instead of letting methane to escape to the atmosphere, we can capture this biogas and convert it into renewable energy, such as electricity and heat. So, we are not only managing our waste, we are transforming it into a clean energy while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. However, this process is not simple because the production of biogas depends on many factors, including pH, temperature, and the type of waste. So, we find that this production is not easy, and we use machine learning, which becomes a solution to this problem, which makes a great difference, as machine learning improves the prediction of biogas production and allows us to learn from data. By analyzing the data from anaerobic digestion systems, these models can predict the biogas production in high accuracy under different conditions. So my work applies these machine learning models on real data from wastewater and sludge treatment processes. I'm Nesma, a master's student. My work is focusing on improving the prediction of these machine learning models to predict the biogas to support efficient and sustainable waste-to-energy system. So we can stop seeing waste as a problem. We can start seeing it as an opportunity to generate electricity and clean energy, to decrease gas emissions, and to make a more sustainable future. So sometimes the most challenging things to our environment, the solution to it can be hidden in something we do every day. Thank you.
Thank you. While physics is my favorite word, electricity is my second favorite word, so good stuff there. Electrical engineering. Our next speaker is Benjamin Nguyen. Benjamin is a psychology student, a master's psychology student supervised by Dr. Trevor Hart. And the title of the presentation is Sex, Substance, and Satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm here to talk to you about sexual minority men and their anal sex. Some of you may already know, some of you may hear this for the first time, that gay, bisexual, queer, and other men who have sex with men have different sexual position preferences. Some exclusively prefer to top, meaning being the inserted partner. Some exclusively prefer to bottom, meaning being the receptive partner. Some other men enjoy both, and they are flexible, like the versatile, verse top or verse bottom. But do we always do the things we say we prefer? Well, no. In a previous study, 66% of gay and bisexual men reported a mismatch between their indicated sexual position preference and what they actually did during sex. One of the factors that may contribute to this sexual position discordance is sexualized substance use, aka the use of certain substances in sexual context to enhance sensory pleasure, to reduce inhibitions, and thus supposedly to increase sexual satisfaction. But is this actually the case? What is the interaction between sexual position discordance and sexualized substance use on sexual satisfaction? And to answer this question, with the support of a national research team, I completed a quantitative survey-based study with a national sample of almost 2,000 men across Canada, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. What did I find? Consistent with previous research, over 60% men in my sample also reported discordant sex. Yet, sexual position discordance was not linked with lower sexual satisfaction. However, statistics showed that the use of certain substances like crystal meth or even poppers significantly moderated this relationship. What does it all mean, Benjamin? Well, two things. First, there's a great deal of behavioral flexibility and diversity among these men when it comes to sex, and doing something different from their preference was not a deal breaker, or rather I should say, satisfaction breaker at all. But second, substances do not always make sex better. In fact, the more frequently it happens, the lower the sexual satisfaction will be. And this is so important for clinicians, especially sex therapists and others working in sexual health. Because while promoting diverse sexual expression, sexual exploration, we need to pay closer attention to the role of substances when it comes to supporting folks in achieving an optimal sexual health and a fulfilling, satisfying, and positive sexual life. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. I was in the buffet line with Benjamin, and he recruited me to be his photographer. So I've got the photos, Benjamin. Just come get them for me afterwards. Our next speaker is Evangelos Costa-Los. Evangelos is doing their master's MRP in the graduate program of chemical engineering, supervised by Dr. Chun Hyuk Lee. The title of their presentation is Clearing the Roads for Carbon Dioxide.
Imagine driving through a city during rush hour. Two cities can have the same number of roads, the same number of cars, and even the same total space for traffic. Yet in one city, traffic flows smoothly, while in the other, it comes to a complete stop. The same issue can be seen inside some clean energy devices. These are systems that produce little to no environmental pollutants during their operation. My research focuses on one of these technologies, carbon dioxide electrolysis. The process uses renewable electricity to convert CO2 emissions into useful products such as fuels or industrial chemicals. What this means is instead of just reducing emissions, we are reusing them as a resource. However, there is a challenge. Inside of these devices is a material called a gas diffusion layer. It's a porous structure that transports your carbon dioxide to the reaction site. You can think of this material as a road network for your gas molecules, where the pores are your streets and the gas molecules are your cars. And just like cities that experience traffic, these materials can experience something called flooding. In a separate compartment, we also have a liquid electrolyte that's required for this reaction. However, at large scales, this liquid can invade your microstructure, causing a blockage, preventing your gas molecules from flowing through. And this severely degrades the performance of your device. And one common solution is to just design these devices with as much space as possible to allow gas transport. However, surprisingly, two materials can have the same amount of empty space, yet behave completely differently. For example, in the top image, you'll see a device with poor connectivity. When flooding occurs, many pathways become fragmented and your CO2 becomes stuck. However, the bottom image shows an example of a device with good connectivity, where even when flooding occurs, there are still many open pathways for your gas molecules to flow through. And the surprising part is that these materials have the same amount of empty space in them. My research uses computational modeling to understand how changes in these microstructures can impact flooding and gas transport. By optimizing these devices, we can improve carbon conversion technologies and promote a cleaner energy future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evangelos. Important work on capturing carbon. Our next presenter is Ellie Turinueva. Ellie's doing their master's thesis in the architecture graduate program supervised by Dr. Lisa Landrum. The title of their talk is Film as a Framework for Designing the Public Realm.
Hello? Okay. Lights, camera, action. A phrase exclusive to when starting film production. However, what if this idea was applied to how we viewed and designed our own public spaces? Despite the different artistic approaches found between architecture and film, this thesis reimagines public spaces through a cinematic lens, positioning architecture as both the director and the set, and revitalizing the stage of Sankofa Square, directly behind me. Shakespeare saying that all the world is a stage reflects how both performance and reality can be blurred, a concept found in both literature and in film. This is made literal as film has two co-directors, technique and atmosphere. Jump cuts, fade outs are all examples of film techniques that alter our perception of space, as we can't magically jump between building to building like we can in the movies. It was worth a shot. This is brought into the design as the stage has fins fins at varying angles, creating moments of visual solidity and transparency. As visitors travel around the platform, following along one pathway, mimicking the singularity of a plotline of a movie, passing by mirrored surfaces, either seeing themselves or the square around them. Secondly, as filmmakers construct immersive atmospheres, allowing for visual language to transcend dialogue, dystopian movies in particular reflect upon cultural and societal anxieties through architecture. By having the backdrop express power and its effect on the human condition. This effect on the human condition and the dystopian environments aided in the critique of Sankofa Square. From the huge plastering billboards found within WALL-E, love that movie, to the concrete abundant surfaces found within the Hunger Games and Metropolis. Dystopian movies and their architecture isn't completely imaginary, as it borrows from our own architecture for the purpose of commentary. To prevent Sankofa Square from continuing as a perpetual threshold to pass by, but rather a place to intentionally explore, the new stage design looks toward film as a way to curate experience and to reframe how we view our own surroundings, even if we may be familiar with it. Lights, camera, architecture become not a call to performance, but a call to place. Having architecture frame our public spaces as living movie sets, invite interaction and renewed civic resonance. That's a wrap.
Thank you, Ellie. I look forward to hopefully seeing your architecture come up on Sankofa Square. I walk by it every day. Our next presenter is Daryl Wilson. Daryl's doing their PhD in the psychology graduate program, supervised by Dr. Kristen Wickers. The title of the presentation is The Pedagogy Project, Using Lecture Breaks for Learning.
Undergrad. Do you smell that? It's that distinct first-year aroma of nervousness, newfound freedom, too much pizza, and those last traces of puberty. According to the stats in Ontario, more than 2/3 of all first years will have a class with over 100 students in it, with that number potentially going as high as 1,000. Now, I want you to imagine with me that you're a new undergraduate student, packed in a room with a couple hundred of your peers. For the past hour, you've been laboring through challenging new material, drifting in and out of attention, which is perfectly normal according to the literature. Now I want you to imagine what's going to happen when your professor inevitably calls for that 5 or 10-minute break from the lecture. I'll tell you, absolute chaos. Phone calls, TV shows, naps, snacks, bathroom breaks, all hell breaks loose around you. Who here can relate? Now, unfortunately, it is a common experience to return from a lecture break feeling lost, confused, or just unprepared to continue learning. And the literature tells us that this is likely because unstructured lecture breaks can actually have a net negative impact on learning through psychological interference and distractions, leading to a learning experience that feels like this. But what if we could change that? My research suggests that not only is it possible to re-engineer lecture breaks such that they actually help learning, but that doing so involves a relatively simple change. In my experimental study, we take groups of undergraduate students and put them in a mock online lecture with a break in the middle and a pop quiz at the end. Now, we tested 4 distinct break conditions, and what we're finding is that the way we use lecture breaks as educators really makes a difference. So, that simple change I mentioned, it's this. Instead of transitioning directly into the chaos of an unstructured lecture break, take 2 to 5 minutes where students consult exclusively with each other and or their notes on the content up to that point, giving them a chance to consolidate what they've learned. We call this a consolidation pause. Then let them go and do their thing. The change is so simple and small that it almost seems silly, but there are powerful psychological processes that drive significant performance boosts as a result. Not only do students' grades increase and improve by up to a whole letter grade, but they also report positive learning experiences overall and better relationships with their peers and their educators, leading to a learning experience that feels much more like this. Thank you.
Thank you. As someone who's taught at the movie theaters, large lectures, I can relate to the odors you mentioned. Add to that popcorn from the movie theaters as well, so it's quite a mix. Our next presenter is Mateus Semiao. Mateus is a PhD student in the Chemical Engineering graduate program, supervised by Dr. Nariman Yousefi, and the title of their talk is Carbon Nanomaterials, a Recipe for Cleaner Water.
Today, I want to talk to you about pasta. Have you ever wondered why pasta comes in so many different shapes if it's all made from the same ingredients? Well, my grandmother is Italian, and she used to tell me that each pasta shape is perfect for a certain sauce and its ingredients. In my PhD, I work with carbon nanomaterials. They are smaller than 100 nanometers in at least one dimension, and just like pasta, they can come in many different shapes, but they're all made from the same thing, carbon. They are fascinating because they show properties that we do not see in macro-scale carbon. And these properties are particularly interesting for water treatment, especially because these materials can remove contaminants that conventional treatment plants cannot remove very easily. However, even after decades of research on nanomaterials, we still haven't reached real-world applications. One of the reasons is that we still know very little about the mechanisms that explain how these materials behave in real complex wastewaters. This is very different from what we know about pasta. Over hundreds of years, people have learned how to match each pasta shape with its perfect sauce. We know, for example, how the long, smooth strands of spaghetti are perfect for light tomato sauce, or how fusilli spirals are perfect for trapping thicker sauces. In a similar way, contaminants like microplastics or petroleum derivatives present in water can be trapped or even degraded depending on the size, shape, and surface chemistry of the nanomaterial. However, in nanotechnology, we don't have this rule book of interactions the same way we have for pasta. That's why my research focused on establishing a linking connection between contaminant types and nanomaterials composition. I do that by making small variations in nanomaterials and applying them into complex solutions to test their efficiency with several interfering substances. By doing that, we can decipher the mechanisms, understand how these interactions work, and determine at the molecular level the right shape, properties, and surface chemistry to the contaminant we want to remove from water. Just like that, instead of just guessing which nanomaterial might work, we can design the right process from the beginning and take these wonderful materials outside of research papers and take them straight to wastewater treatment plants. Carbon nanomaterials are like pasta. Contaminants are the sauce. All we need now is the right recipe. So let's start cooking.
Besides steak, I love pasta, but I couldn't help notice the cute kitten in the slide there. Our next presenter is Shanali Tevarupairuma. I should be able to say that better. But anyway, Shanali is doing her master's thesis in architecture, supervised by Julia Jamrozik. Their title is Empowerment by Design, Addressing Domestic Violence Through Architecture.
The experience of domestic violence is one of being homeless at home. Behind closed doors is one of the deadliest places a woman can be. These statements present an architectural component to violence against women that has gone unrecognized throughout architectural literature for far too long. The built environment, as it exists today, was not built separate from the sexist ideologies that governed life at the time when modern cities and suburbs were established. The traditional suburb and the layout of the home all deal with the segregation of spaces and the idolization of privacy, all design strategies impacting women disproportionately to men. Many prominent architectural sources paint a picture of what the home is and what it is meant to feel like, saying that the home is like a large cradle, or that the home is an experience of inherent warmth. These notions heavily disregard the opposite experience that victims of domestic violence have within these same spaces. My thesis aims to bring these discrepancies to light. This is where the power of memorial architecture comes into play. Victims of domestic violence carry traumatic memories with them and feel that they cannot share their stories for many reasons. Memorial architecture offers spaces to contemplate and to internalize the magnitude of tragedies that have happened throughout history, while also having a say in who and what is given representation in society today. This thesis proposes the design of a memorial for victims of domestic violence that has an active social presence in Toronto. This memorial will act as an extension to women's shelters, helping to advance the feminist movement by providing spaces for advocacy and for fostering community amongst survivors. The primary design methodology of this memorial uses the psychological experience of crossing thresholds as a vessel for transitioning between states. The public enters the memorial with the preconceived notion of the world that they live in, but leaves with the newfound understanding of the realities of domestic violence. Survivors may come to the memorial with the belief that they are alone in their experiences, but leave feeling acknowledged, respected, and empowered. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanali, for shining a light on this very prevalent and important topic. So that is our 22nd presenter, and that's all the presentations we have here. So I'm blown away. Great job. I'm blown away, seriously. Amazing presentations. So thank you for being courageous enough to come forward and present your thesis in 3 minutes. Truly impressive. We're going to take a short recess while our judges have the difficult job of deliberating for us. And so give us about 15 minutes to do the deliberations. No pressure. Okay? And I'll call everyone back up. Please hang around so that we can recognize the winners of today's competition. So see you in a bit. Lots of anticipation in the air. Who is it going to be? Okay, so welcome back, everyone. And again, I'd like to thank our judges for taking on this very difficult task of determining a winner and runner-up between so many outstanding presentations. So thank you again. So I'll start with the Participants' Choice Award. And we actually have a tie for the Participants' Choice Award. And so we're going to give out 2 Participant Choice Awards. And so the first winner is Namira Sheikh. And the second Participant's Choice for the tie winner is Laura Tevran-Simnakis. And I'll now present the runner-up award for the presentations. Give me a second. Okay, so the runner-up and $500 award goes to Daryl Wilson. The first place winner receives $1,000 and will represent TMU at the Ontario 3-minute thesis competition at Brock in May. The winner is Namira Sheikh. Great job. I'd like to invite the judges to join us on stage. The judges, please, on stage for a photo with the winners. So the rest of the winners, if you could come back up for a photo. And then we're going to do a group photo with everyone after that. So congratulations to our winners. And thank you again to all our participants, our judges, and all of you for being here. I do want to say a big thank you to Leslie Mutic and our colleagues from YSGPS and TMU who volunteered their time to help make this event a success. So a big round of applause to them, please. Please Stay tuned for details about the Ontario 3MT competition. To all our participants, please stay to have your photo taken and receive your certificate of participation. Everyone else, please stay and enjoy the refreshments and each other's company. Thank you.